Hi folks, my name is Dave Jackson and I hope you really enjoy this presentation. Growing up in upstate New York as a fisherman, there was nothing really unique about my childhood. I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, but there's nothing really unique. We fish in the ponds, the creeks, the streams, bass fishing, trout fishing. But one thing that was really unique about my childhood fishing experience was something called the trolling box that we had. Now the trolling box is something I've never seen anywhere else. I can't find any history of any trolling boxes anywhere else. To the best of my knowledge, it was only unique to my family. Now I am 53 years old. I was born in 1962. My dad was born in 1929, and my grandfather was born in 1898. And I remember my grandfather telling me that his dad had acquired this box. Now I don't know if he built it or he bought it. My guess it looks like it's handmade to me. So that gives you an idea of the age of this thing. So it's somewhere in the late 1800s, somewhere in that ballpark. But it's been around for a very long time. Now, my guess is this was invented or built because back in the day, they didn't have outriggers or planer boards. Matter of fact, in the 60s and 70s, I remember seeing outriggers or planer boards out on the lakes. And like I said, we used to fish in the Finger Lakes in upstate New York, mainly Cuga Lake. And I don't remember seeing outriggers or planer boards. Now, we just had a typical John boat with a 20 horsepower motor on it that my grandfather and my dad shared. But this is how we fished for lake trout, for lakers, and occasionally a salmon. We didn't use fishing poles. So my guess is this was invented out of necessity. How do you get your trout spoon to depth? Because again, there wasn't the new stuff they have nowadays to do that kind of thing. So what I'm going to show you is what we call the trolling box. And what this is, it's really quite simple and quite unique. Plywood. It's got an old Victrola motor in it, like you'd have the old record player motors. And here's the handle. And it's got the spool. Here's your trout spoon. Now, we have the monofilament leader that went to the trout spoon. But shortly after the monofilament leader, you had your wire line. And my guess is the wire line is there for weight to take it down to depth. But how this worked is if you were sitting in your boat, if this is aft, I can remember my dad and my brother and my grandfather sitting in the boat. Again, it was a small John boat. You have a piece of leather on your finger right here. So you'd be steering the boat here. We just had, like I said, the old Johnson motor in the back of the boat with the throttle on the handle. And you would let out your line until the spoon would hit the bottom of the lake. You feel it rock, you feel it start hitting bottom. As soon as that happened, you would just take your copper line and you would jig. Just do this. Steering the boat and doing this. We didn't have depth finders or anything about temperature gauges or anything like that. It was just hope you got to that point and you would fish. As soon as the trout or salmon, which was rare, but a laker would hit, you'd make your arm become the fishing rod and you'd slowly bring the fish back in and you'd fight the fish as needed. And as the fish came in, you would just spool your box back like this. And if something happened and the fish was too big, you could use the crank handle here and you could crank it back in and you would land your fish. We used to have two of these fishing trolling boxes. I'm not sure what happened to the one somewhere over the years just came missing. But this is very unique. I've never seen one. Like again, this goes way back to my great-grandfather. And you can see again, it's just a simple design of plywood, a Victrola motor, wire line, and monofilament. And that's how we used to fish for lake trout in upstate New York back in the day. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.